All right, we're going to tackle an idea about men, love, and heartbreak that pretty much flips everything you've been told on its head. It's this story about a quiet, often totally misunderstood emotional journey. And it all kicks off with one simple, kind of provocative claim.
Yep, that's it. That's the core idea right there. It's super simple, really direct, and honestly, probably a little surprising to hear. It basically suggests that the emotional timeline we just assume for men, well, it might be completely backward.
And here's the really crucial part. This isn't just some romantic notion, We're not talking about movie tropes or poetry here. We're actually digging into a real psychological pattern, one that explains this quiet kind of heartbreak that honestly so often goes completely unnoticed. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to clear the air first. We have to look at the stereotypes we're all so familiar with. The ones that make this reality so hard to even see in the first place. I mean, we're all taught to see men as these emotionally resilient types, right? The stoic, rational ones in a relationship. They're supposed to love with their heads, keep their feelings in check. But is that really the whole story? Well, the reality is actually way more complex. And it's not about being weak or not being strong enough. It's about a totally different kind of emotional depth, one that's quiet, really profound, and man, it is incredibly persistent.
So, how does this whole process even start? Let's dig into why men tend to fall in love so fast. And really, it has everything to do with this idea of an unguarded heart.
The stereotype says they're cautious, right? That they slowly test the waters. But the reality is often the total opposite. When a man is genuinely, truly moved by someone, there's no holding back. There's no testing his feelings. He just dives in headfirst, completely and totally unguarded. And this whole thing happens so fast. It's not just a feeling, it's like an immediate, unconscious commitment. He starts imagining a future together, showing love through his actions, helping, supporting, and he starts investing his most valuable asset, his time. And before he even has a chance to think about putting up a shield, boom, he's already fallen. So this quick fall leads right into something else, a surprisingly serious, unspoken commitment. For him, this isn't something casual. It's not fleeting at all. And this is so, so important to get. When he says something simple like, I like you, it's not just a whim or him testing the waters. It's usually the final result of a ton of internal thought. It's a declaration that really comes with some weight, some real gravity. So you see, his love isn't just an emotion. It actually becomes this sense of responsibility, a core part of who he is. His partner isn't just someone he's with. They get placed in this deep, foundational space in his mind. And once somebody is lodged that deep in there, getting them out is, well, it's anything but easy. Which, of course, brings us to the toughest part of this story, the breakup. Because this is where the silence becomes absolutely deafening. So while women often process grief outwardly, right? They find release by talking about it, sharing it. Men tend to do the complete opposite. Their grief gets turned inward. It becomes this private battle that's fought in total silence. And that silence, it just makes the wound deeper and makes it last so much longer. And that's his default mode, silence. And it's not because he isn't feeling anything. It's because he's been taught his whole life that showing this kind of pain is weakness. So he's not going to be calling up his friends for long talks about what went wrong. Nope. That pain is his, and he feels like he has to carry it all by himself. You won't see it on social media either. No cryptic posts, no sad song lyrics. To the entire outside world, it's like absolutely nothing has happened. And that's the final piece of the act, right? He just keeps showing up, goes to work, smiles, acts like everything is fine. But inside, he's holding on to all of it. And that crushing, silent weight, that's exactly what makes moving on so incredibly slow. And even when time passes and he starts to move forward, the memories don't just vanish. Oh no, they linger. And they have this way of popping back up in these quiet, totally unexpected moments. I mean, he might not be thinking about her every single day, but then something simple hits him. An old song comes on the radio. He drives down a familiar road. He catches a faint scent in the air, and bam, it all comes rushing back in an instant. And here we are again, right back to that central theme, silence. His remembering is just like his grieving. It's private.
It's quiet. And the one person he remembers so vividly is so often the one person who has no idea. So this is a really critical point. For him, moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It can't. That person was too deeply embedded in his life. Instead, moving on is about the memory changing. It's still there. Yeah, it's part of his story now. But it stops being this raw, open wound.
All right, so let's kind of wrap this up by reframing what all of this really means. Because it's so easy to look at this whole process and just misinterpret it as some kind of weakness. But falling fast and grieving for a long time, that isn't a flaw. It is not a personal failing. It has nothing to do with a lack of manliness. In fact, it's the opposite. It's the sign of someone who loved deeply and truly. It's just the unavoidable consequence of loving someone with everything you've got.
And that really just leaves us with one last question to think about. Our society teaches boys to be strong, to hide their hearts, to stay silent even when they're falling apart on the inside. So in doing that, what are we really losing? What authentic human experiences are we asking them, and maybe even ourselves, to give up?